Your Mac guys here on Birds 365 as legalized tampering is just around the corner, 3 hours. We will start to hear. And oh, by the way, quick note, maybe an hour. I don't think we'll hear something in the first 15 minutes, doubt a half an hour. Could be before the end of the first hour. So if it starts at noon, there will be at least one information broker. Is that what you like calling them, John?
Yeah.
Someone will come out with something that there is an agreement between player X and team Y. It shouldn't happen. It just flat out shouldn't happen unless it's a guy re-signing with his previous team, which means he shopped himself for 45 minutes and then said, oh, okay, never mind. I'll go back to my old team. Yeah, not realistic. It's a deal that got cut in Indianapolis 2 weeks ago when they were out there for the combine. This is legalized tampering. Oh, there's been illegal tampering going on all off season since the Super Bowl ended. And we knew the year was over and teams turned the page and started, how can we be better next year? There'll be one. There'll be one deal that comes out in the first hour and a half, John.
Oh, yeah. Probably more than
include an Eagle player going somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything starts in Indy. That's really the legal tampering period. I always joke, the NFL has never used that term ever, to my knowledge. To them, it's the legal negotiation period. I don't know who came up with it, but the real illegal stuff happens in Indy. You're not supposed to talk in Indy. You're allowed to talk. It is legal these 2 days. So, but yeah, stuff's already done. Stuff's in place. A lot of times when you see big time players get cut elsewhere, and instead of taking a pay cut, it's because they already know there's other deals waiting for them. That's where the real legal tampering happens. It's not legal though.
Johnny Mac, need your thoughts on two big trades that have come down since you and I wrapped it up last week here on Birds 365. The number one pick in the draft has been dealt, and I took some calls on this. I need your take on it. Bears send the first overall pick to Carolina for DJ Moore, who's a top 20, top at worst 25 wide receiver in the league.
Good player. Yeah.
Making good money, $20 million. It's not like he's a great and a value with a lower top. No, he already got his deal, so he's a $20 million guy. But I think he plays to the level of a $20 million guy. And 4 first-round draft picks. So they go from 1 down to 9. And for that, they get 3 additional draft picks and a top 20 wide receiver. What do you think of the Bears deal with Carolina?
Well, it was two 1s and 2 2s, right? It was 2
right.
1s.
See, I always, and
2 1s,
maybe this
2
is just nitpicking on my part. They're giving up a 1, but they're getting back a 1. They're giving up 8 spaces in the draft. So that's what it is to me. Yeah. That you're really not getting 2 first-round draft picks. You're getting an 8-spot decrease, and then on top of that, a future 1, a 2 this year, a 2, and another pick on top of it. What was your grade out on the trade from a Chicago perspective?
I think it was good from a Chicago, and I haven't been, I've not been high at all on Ryan Pace. So part of it is, all right, he's doing the Sam Hinkie thing, the NFL version. He tanks a season, he gets, in the position, and he uses it to get a bunch of picks. So ultimately, from Carolina's perspective, look, if they hit on the quarterback, it doesn't matter. If CJ Stroud, it seems to be everyone thinks they're going up for CJ Stroud. If he turns into a superstar, well, they win. They win. That's how it always happens with these quarterback trades. But from Chicago's perspective, it's interesting because I thought they showed no interest in Justin Fields, and then they did a 180 and said, all right, he's fine. And now let's go build around Justin Fields. They might have already ruined him. So I don't agree with what Chicago has done as a whole, but I think if they didn't want a quarterback, I think they did a good job. So it kind of depends on where you go. Like, I have no confidence in that organization. Maybe Kevin Warren changes that. He's the new team president. really savvy guy, really well-respected guy, was running the Big Ten, ran Minnesota before that. Maybe he changes it. I don't like what's been going on there, but I like the haul they got in return. And from Carolina's perspective, it doesn't matter. Nobody talks about what the Chiefs gave up for Patrick Mahomes. You know why? Who gives a flying? You got Patrick Mahomes. If you get the quarterback right, it doesn't matter what you give up.
You and I agree on that for sure. What I got a couple calls on, which I was surprised from Chicago people over the weekend on CBS Sports Radio. Why do you do it now? Why not wait? The price of poker had to go up
as you got crappy general manager.
See, I disagree with you. Yeah, in case you haven't read between the lines here, folks, John doesn't like the Bears a little bit. He doesn't like the general manager. He doesn't like the organization.
I don't like the general
he
manager.
doesn't think Fields is all that good a quarterback, which I don't know how you watch Fields play this year and come away with that opinion, but that's just me. We disagree on the quality of the guy who they have in the position right now. You know that you're going to get better when you get closer to the draft. I don't know that. To get a top 20 wide receiver, a replacement one, and only have to come down 8 slots in the draft, a future one, a 2 this year, and a future pick on top of it, to only move down 8 slots, I think is like one of the best trades I've ever seen in my life. You may not have a high opinion on Ryan Poles, but I think he got a steal of a deal. It was
and I gave him credit.
Too good a trade to give up.
When the deal came down, I said, I put on Twitter, I've been very hard on Ryan Poles, and I said this is a good deal. On paper, this is a good deal for him. And you say I don't like Chicago. I have nothing against the Chicago Bears. I have nothing against Justin Fields. I liked Justin Fields before he got into the Chicago organization. I think they have done him no good and now they're saying, all right, forget about what we did before. Now flip the switch. That's my problem with Chicago. And part of it is, look, I'm above board. I'm not a Sam Hinkie guy. I don't like this bullshit. I don't like it. So that kind of tints, and I'll be honest, that kind of tints my view towards Ryan Poles. I don't like what he did. I think I think these people who do this fail to take into account that these are human beings. And basically with Justin Fields, see, you take it as I don't like Justin Fields. It's the exact opposite of that. They gave him no help. He was running around like Randall Cunningham with Buddy Ryan, making plays on his own physical gifts. But from the quarterback position, from a processing standpoint, he was not good. Part of that was because they had no offense. They went out and got Luke Getsy, who's another Aaron Rodgers guy. You saw Nathaniel Hackett. They're all nobodies. They all got the hell out of the way of Aaron Rodgers. They didn't build an offense for him. And now all of a sudden they're saying, oh, we're going to build an offense for you, so forget about it. They might have already David Carr'd this kid and ruined him. I don't know. Hopefully not. But they did nothing for him. And then all of a sudden, they're flipping the switch and saying, oh, all right, let's start it. That's what I don't like.
Well, see, that's what I do like, because they didn't go down Sam Hinkie's road, which was, well, when are you actually going to land the plane, Sam? When are you actually going to try and get good? When are you actually going to make a commitment to winning games? Sam was like, talk to the coach. And just continue to pile bad team on bad team just to get draft picks. The Bears did it 1 year. They went into the tank for 1 year, and they have now said, we're landing the plane. We're going to use these draft picks this year to get better players. They've got all this cap room. They got DJ Moore. Oh, they're headed back in the right direction. Now, it may take time. It might not click in right away. But they absolutely have done it in 1 year's time, unlike Sam Hinkie, who it took 5.
Well, it's not an apples to apples comparison. I'm not comparing. Basketball's different than football. You don't have to do it for multiple years in football. But the point that you didn't address, and I'd like your opinion on, is the human. I think all these guys, whether that's where the commonality is, they don't take into effect that they're dealing with human beings, not assets. You can't just shit on a kid and assume you could turn on the switch and it's not going to affect him. You didn't build an offense. He's running around like Randall Cunningham, as I said. Go make a play. I don't have a play for you. Go make a play. And now all of a sudden you want to go into a more structured system. I hope they haven't ruined him. I fear they've already ruined him. That's my fear.
Right. Here's where you and I diverge. You think that it's more likely that they've ruined him because they did. They threw him to the wolves this year. And man, how many times I said this here, CBS, wherever. He's got no shot. The offensive line was leaking at best. No real running back. The wide receiver room was a joke. Komet, his tight end, was his best receiver, much like, and I'm not trying to compare the two, Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey, best wide receiver in Kansas City after Hill went out the door. Same thing in Chicago. And unless you are Kelsey, if your wide receiver is your best receiver, that's not a good thing. So you're right. They threw him into the deep end of the pool this year. I think he comes out of it on the other side even stronger.
Well, I
think it makes him a better player rather than, oh my God, they've already ruined this kid because 1 year they asked him to do really heavy lifting.
Here's another commonality between these losers as well. You can go across sports. They never have the answer on the back end. They never know what they're doing. All they know how to do is to accumulate assets. And then when they have to use those assets, they got no flipping idea. So Ryan Pauls is one of these guys I fear in the same division. I fear Kwesi Dofa-Mensah is the same type. He's doing the same thing this year as Chicago did. He's bailing on everybody. He's another one of the, analytics, blah, 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 assets, blah, blah, blah. And everybody champions these guys in the modern sports world. You got to tank. You're not good enough. 13 games isn't good enough in the case of the Vikings. That's not good enough. You got to tear it down. And everybody believes this crap. And these guys have no answer on the back end. Look at the drafts. It's only 1 year for both of them. They both had crappy drafts. What makes you think that's going to turn around? What makes you think that's magically going to turn around? I don't like the GM. That's my thing with Chicago.
If he uses his Kansas City influence to get Dwayne Brown to add to that offensive line, seeing as they have
he's got a chance to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a chance to prove me wrong. He's got everything right. He's got the assets. He's got the cap space. All right, Sam Hinkie Light, go do it. Go find some players. Go develop players, even more than finding players, Jody. Because if you're at the top of the draft, as you know, you're going to find talent. Develop those players. Develop is the more important part. Go do it. It proved me wrong.
I agree with you that that's what needs to be done. You don't think it's going to happen. I'm giving it at least a possibility because I'm that big a Fields fan. I think he's that good that despite being asked to carry an unbelievable load this past year, he'll come out of it stronger on the other side. And they've already put the first domino in place with DJ Moore. He's got a legitimate top receiver. You saw what happened with the Eagles this year when they added A.J. Brown. It just makes it that much easier for Devonta Smith. It's a great number one connection between a quarterback and a wide receiver. I'm not going to say Justin Fields and DJ Moore are going to be Hurts and Brown, but they can be Hurts and Brown light. And that's certainly a step in the right direction. So the reason why I'm less ticked off about what the Bears did last year is they turned on a dime and said, all right, never mind, now we're back in. Rather than just waiting.
I don't think they made a good decision on the coaching staff. I think, one of the things you bring up A.J. Brown and more so Jalen Hurts because he would be the better comp for Justin Fields. And the Eagles made, we talked about that leading up to that draft. Why not Justin Fields here? The Eagles hadn't believed in Jalen Hurts to that point, to the degree where they weren't looking at veteran quarterbacks. They were, but they made the right decision by sticking with Jalen Hurts over Justin Fields. And one of the reasons why it's the right decision, not talent. There's few quarterbacks in the world who have more physical gifts than Justin Fields. Probably, that's a one-hand conversation. you're talking 4 or 5. I mean, this kid, as good as Jalen is as a runner, he ain't Justin Fields. Um, Arm strength, everything. Kid's got everything. And I'm talking about Fields. Now that we know, and we didn't know at the time, you never know about coaches, but Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen and Kevin Patullo and Brian Johnson. And this guy's got Luke Getsy, whose job was to get Aaron Rodgers coffee. And you know how I know that? Because that was Nathaniel Hackett's job, and he was a disaster. And Luke Getsy was down on the totem pole. Nah, I don't believe in that organization.
Here's where we'll find out about Nathaniel Hackett this year. He's actually back to doing something that he may be able to do as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, get the hell out of Aaron's way.
He was so in over his head as a head coach in Denver. It was ridiculous. That was you talk about institutional misbehavior. What Denver did, what Chicago did pales in comparison to what Denver did, hiring him as their head coach. That was just
they hired. That's why. And
at least Eberflus showed you a little something that you might say, this guy could turn into a good head coach. 1 year, Hackett was out on his ass because he was overmatched in that job.
George Payton is a guy I know, I've talked to, I have a lot of respect for, and he made a disastrous mistake. He hired a coach to get a quarterback, and then didn't get the quarterback. And but it tells me something about Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, unfortunately, because he's with the Jets, but it won't be a problem for the Jets because they're going to get the quarterback, and he'll get the hell out of the way, and he'll let Aaron do what he does, and he's one of the greatest of all time. And Luke Getsy's the same way. I joked for years, Norv Turner should pay, residuals to Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin. Same thing with all these Aaron Rodgers people. They got out of the way, Jody, and people don't recognize it. And people do not recognize it.
There have been some coaches that have been carried by players. Norv Turner got more chances to be a head coach that he didn't earn than anyone in the history of the National Football League. You and I see that one exactly the same. All right, Mac and Mac here with you on Birds 365. We've got Eddie Kratz, John's co-runner over the coverage on Sports Illustrated. He had a bunch of interesting stories on the Eagles over the last week. Back from vacay, Disney years, you got to stay tuned. Maybe Eddie Kratz will have him on for us. We're guaranteed a tan for McMullen. Shockingly, a guy with a better tan than either McMullen or McDonald